And welcome
to My Favorite Murder.
That is Georgia Hardstark.
And that is Karen Kilgariff.
And today we're so thrilled to be talking to two people that you probably already know. She is a film historian. He is a filmmaker.
And they just ended a critically acclaimed 4-year run on the beautiful podcast, I Saw What You Did.
And now they're back with a new show that premieres Tuesday, January 28th on the Exactly Right Network.
It's called Dear Movies, I Love You. Please give a warm welcome to Millie Chirico and Casey O'Brien. Woo!
Hello.
Hi.
Guys, could you tell we were reading off a teleprompter?
Oh, it felt really good.
Pros. We're just pros
Oh,
at
natural.
How would you guys synopsize what you're doing on your podcast?
Yeah.
You know, what's your elevator pitch of the podcast?
It's the vibe.
The name of the podcast is Dear Movies, I Love You. So it is kind of, we say it's having a crush on movies. It's an infatuation with movies. It's a sincere celebration of film and film culture. And we just want it to be accessible to people because, Millie and I, we can get in the weeds about like art house bullshit, but we want to talk about it in a way that's like fun. And we like highbrow, we like really lowbrow too. And so we want it to be like an inviting, fun, cute podcast. Millie, anything to add to that?
Well, I think I'm going to get deep, perhaps a little deeper than Casey's just revealed. I personally, when I was, I'm kidding. You're not the himbo of the podcast, by the way. You're not a film himbo, as I've heard in the past. I think over the past couple of years, especially during COVID, especially during, I don't know, just like living and life and bad news and, things happening in the world, I started really thinking about like my relationship to movies because, as a person who like lives alone and, a lot of, and has worked in movies for over 20 years, I started thinking about do I have an emotional relationship with movies? Like, of course they're entertaining. Of course it's my job. Of course it's an intellectual pursuit, I guess. But what's like my emotional relationship to it? Like, do they do things for me? Are they my comfort? Are they my partner, for crying out loud? I mean, honestly. And I started thinking about it in that way where I was like, I don't know, like, I think they are. Like, it's the one thing that has consistently stayed in my life that has been like my refuge from all the bullshit, right? And there's some kind of, I don't know, I have this like deep feeling of appreciation for like what the art form, I guess, if you want to call it that, has done for my life in that emotional kind of way. And so that's why I think when we were like, what's the vibe? I was like, I don't know. We just love movies. We're like in love with movies. We like have crushes on movies. And Casey like immediately was like, of course, like I get it, Yeah. And so I don't know. I think that's sort of, I think what the podcast is also about is it's about sort of like being in love with this wacky world that we're in and, just sort of, I don't know, like being very earnest and sincere about it. So,
yeah. And I think there's a lot of like judgment about like what movies you like or like what movies affect you the most. Like it's very easy to be like, oh, that's people will throw I said this even earlier where I was like, this is a stupid movie, like I Can't Hardly Wait or 10 Things I Hate About You, but those make me feel a certain way and that is meaningful to me. So I think our podcast wants to kind of hold up all types of films and celebrate them equally and they're meaningful equally. It's more about like how these movies make us feel rather than the intellectual value that something has, if that makes sense.
And what I love about that too is it kind of reminds me of our podcast, and even though true crime has nothing to do with what you guys are doing, but it's finding your people too who are like can talk about this one movie for hours even if they don't like it with you. And, like the two of you found each other and then your audience and your listeners are going to be like, absolutely, or no, you're wrong, but you're still connecting in a way that's hard to do these days. It feels like everyone's just kind of having these superficial connections, but if you have this like interest that you're so passionate about, you can really connect with people.
Yeah, I feel like, and listeners, when you listen to episode 1, like you'll get that it's like movie party vibe where like the first time I listened to it, just your guys' chit chat where each topic and each movie and each thing that came up, it was like super interest, super passion, and waxing poetic about the Magic Mike trilogy where it's like, I never thought about that before. That's really true. Like just that kind of thing where it's like, you can be deep and analytical kind of about anything you want as long as you like it enough. And it felt like that,
Yeah. There's also like an episode that we have coming up that I really love because we're talking about a movie that Casey is extremely passionate about and is like a movie basically that the movie that radicalized him, that made him a film person, quote unquote. And it was a movie that I had a very different opinion on. And we talk all that out in a way that I think is really cool. Like, just because there was something that he loves and connects with that didn't really get me in the same way. I was so interested in just hearing him talk about it and hearing his relationship with it and sort of like what he liked about it. I mean, I feel like that is something that our podcast is doing and will do really well, is just having that mutual respect for each other's taste. I mean, honestly, like, and that's something that I think is a thing that makes film people so annoying or intimidating, is that you have, like I said, like the wrong taste. You have bad taste. You don't like the right things. And I don't really see it that way ever. I don't ever see people having that. Like, I would rather listen and be fascinated by your passion for something than just shitting on you for liking a movie I don't like. Do you know what I mean?
I love that.
Yeah.
So you guys on your podcast usually start by telling each other the movies that you've watched recently. What movies have you watched recently?
Millie, you go first.
Oh God, I gotta pull out my phone.
Letterbox.
She's gonna go. She has to be legit.
I got to be legit.
Did you watch a movie today?
I watched a movie last night in the past, so it's been the past 24 hours. I watched this movie called Better Man. Have you heard of this movie?
Is this the Robbie Williams movie?
It is the Robbie Williams animatronic
Where he's a monkey?
Monkey, yes.
So
actually, it's not animatronic. It's like weird CGI, right?
Yeah.
That movie, to me, was so much better than it had any right to be. I don't know why. I was like expecting to go in it being like, this is going to be one of the most genuinely bizarre, like weird outsider art things of our generation. And I was like, it's actually kind of good, like legit good.
wow.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Good for Robbie.
I mean, he was a superstar.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I think is so fascinating about it, to be honest, because I'm like, okay, they let this movie happen, like now, where it's like, here's a star who essentially not as famous here in America as he was, in Europe, who hasn't really been around for like 20 years.
Yeah.
And he's a monkey. And it's his life story. I was like, wow, I can't believe that they let that happen. I was actually really impressed that happened. So anyway.
Well, I feel like the whole narrative with Robbie Williams is like, nobody knows about him in America. And then like this movie came out and it was like, this movie's bombing in America. And it's like, we don't know who he is. Why would we go see this movie?
Right.
You've never seen this monkey. We can't support this monkey. We don't know him.
Casey, what did you watch recently?
Okay, so I watched this movie called, and I was really weeping during this movie.
Ooh.
Truly, Madly, Deeply.
Yes.
Have you ever seen this
one's
movie?
It's
that?
like my favorite movie of all time.
Oh, it is?
What?
Yes.
I had like seen bits of it, but I watched it the other night and it's so beautiful and touching. It came out in like 1990. It's with Alan Rickman.
Yes,
and
you've told me about it.
Yeah, Juliet Stevenson.
And basically the premise is her boyfriend Alan Rickman is dead. This is not a spoiler. This happened. This is the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
But he comes back as a ghost, and it's so romantic and sweet and silly, and I was like, this is like one of my new favorite movies of all time. I'm not even kidding.
I'm literally writing it down right now.
Well, also because it's so heavy, like they don't try to clean anything up. It's not the American version of if a girl's boyfriend died that she lived with and obviously is her life partner. It is like there's a scene, I think it begins with a scene where she's at the therapist sobbing and trying to explain how isolated she feels because he's gone and she's walking around and all these people are living life and whatever. And she's ugly crying to a degree where it is like, I was like, who is this woman?
Wow.
Yes, she's incredible.
She's such a good actress.
It's like showing grief the way it really is, which is so hard for anyone to like do if you don't understand.
And the end, total no spoiler, but also be careful because of me. Because I don't keep my promises, but essentially the reveal. Should I not say the reveal?
Don't say the reveal. I don't want to know.
Okay. Because that reveal when I first watched it, and same Casey, where it was me, my friend Dave Messmer, who we worked at the Gap together, and his friend, and she's the one that was like, we have to watch this movie. And all three of us were sobbing at the end, like together sobbing. It was crazy. And it was just one of those weird, like, it's just the perfect 90s, like, real life. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I immediately when the movie started, and it's like happy tears. I feel like I felt good at the end of it. It's not like a downer. It's a happy movie, I think.
It's beautiful.
It's really beautiful. And I truly, madly, deeply loved it.
And who's the director? Do you remember offhand?
Yes, it's Anthony Minghella who did The English Patient and The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Yeah.
Oh,
it was
so
his
good.
first movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm saying, how did I miss that? As if I haven't missed every single fucking movie that has come out in the past.
You're not movie people, which I think is what, like, this would be a perfect podcast for you because it's Casey and Millie kind of pulling people into the movie world. Like, it's going to be okay. We're with you.
Come in.
Yeah.
You know what I am? I find a movie I like and I watch it 40 times and there's no other, and I don't watch any other movies. It's not like I love this director, I'm going to watch all their movies. I don't do that.
Yeah.
I just watch.
I do that too.
Yeah. Okay.
There's no shame.
There's a lot of shame.
That's the thing with our podcast. There's no shame.
Yeah.
We are cringe, but we are free. We say that all the time.
We are cringe, but we're free. Exactly.
Yeah.
Can you guys give like 3 movies that you would recommend to people who love movies but are intimidated by coming into the world of film people?
That's not so deep and like you have to understand the meaning of, but it'll get you to those other movies that then you can appreciate because you know what I mean? Like what do they call them? Like
Gateway
drugs.
Yeah.
This might be actually interesting exercise because Casey and I are I'm a little older than Casey, and I feel like this might be like it's going to be showing our generational roots, perhaps. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think about like what kind of got me into cinephilia, if you will. Like, what was the movie that was the bridge between like 16 Candles and I don't know, 3 Colors Red or something?
Sure.
I'm trying to think of something. I mean, I think for me,
she's speaking in kind of film gibberish.
Yes.
Right now. So
Thank you
if
for
you didn't
translating.
understand that, don't worry, everybody.
Well, I mean, to me, I think when I first kind of was like in high school and in college and I was kind of making that jump, I mean, honestly, I think it was a lot of the American independent stuff from the 90s. So like, I'm thinking of things like, you know, Jim Jarmusch, Stranger Than Paradise or Down by Law or, you know, Alison Anders, Gas Food Lodging, you know, this kind of stuff that was sort of like in the kind of indie cinema stuff in the 90s. That's what I was kind of like, oh, yeah, there was like, you know, SNL comedies and then there's this, right? And so that's kind of how I started kind of getting into like more of a kind of cinema world, right? But then I also think too, stuff like Stanley Kubrick's like The Shining, those types of movies that are kind of like horror, but then kind of what they would call maybe like elevated horror now, which drives me crazy. But, you know, in a way, it's like, here's a horror movie, which is kind of traditionally a genre that brings in a lot of like young people. It's kind of broad audience stuff, but then like it's a little bit more stylish and is a little bit more open-ended in terms of themes. So maybe something like that, like The Shining.
Yeah.
And then For a third, I mean, I gotta say, I mean, again, this is sort of like maybe for a little people who are a little bit younger, but like those like early Wes Anderson movies,
Yeah.
like Bottle Rocket or like, I mean, Rushmore was kind of my favorite out of that stuff. But, you know, even like Royal Tenenbaums, I feel like that kind of stuff would basically set you up in terms of, okay, so here's like an auteurist director who's building a sort of cinema language for his work. Maybe if you're kind of getting into that kind of stuff, that would be like a good entry point.
That's perfect. Yeah.
That's really good. My niece Sophie texted me because she went and saw The Shining at the theater down in San Diego. And she was like, hey, I just saw The Shining. You've seen that, right? And I was just like, this is so weird. Of course. I was like, yes, of course. She's like, it was so good. It was crazy. And I'm like, yeah, it was like the cutest kind of discovery moment that she brought to me, because she was like, I feel like you're the kind of person that would appreciate that movie. And I'm like, yes, I do. I really do.
In fact.
Yeah.
I would say, I think that's right on. I think there are some like gateway directors that are like kind of like how, you know, cinephiles sort of like found their way into movies. For my age, you know, Millie mentioned I'm very young. So like I would say Paul Thomas Anderson is a really good director to kind of follow his career, because he did like Boogie Nights, which is art house film, I would say, but also like a major studio film. But then, you know, he did like There Will Be Blood a few years later, which is a lot, I would say, darker and weirder. And that was like nominated for like Best Picture and stuff, but it kind of is a good way to like get into more of the like highbrow, you know, cinephile movies. And then, so that's like more on the easier end. And I would say like, you know, we're recording this today. One of the great film directors died.
Yep.
David Lynch, my favorite director. And if you want to get into film, you have to see some of his movies. And I would say the entry point for that, for him, would be Blue Velvet, I would say.
Yeah.
And it's a weird, it feels weird. It feels like this is like no other movie I've ever seen, but the plot makes sense and you can understand why things are happening, where that cannot be said for most of his other movies. So that's like a good, if you want to get into David Lynch, I would say start with Blue Velvet.
That's why Mulholland Drive is one of my favorite movies of all time, is because the first time I watched it, I was like, there's no plot. I don't get it. Like, there's no, you know, it's just a movie. There's no plot. And then I watched it again and I was like, holy fuck. Like, the way it blew my mind that when I could finally follow the plot, blew it so hard that nothing has ever lived up to that again. You know what I mean?
I totally agree, because we did that movie for like one of the last episodes of I Saw What You Did. And I had seen it like maybe twice in the past, once when it came out, which I was totally with you, Georgia, like was like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's a vibe, I guess.
It's a vibe. Yeah.
But I don't know anything. And then the second time I watched it, I was, you know, like maybe sort of getting into it a little bit more. But then when we rewatched it for the episode, I had this like revelation. Yeah. And I was like, I know everything about this movie. And I wanted, like, I told Danielle, I was like, we're going to have to really watch the clock, because I could talk about this movie for like 4 or 5 hours.
It's like everything clicks together all of a sudden.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I saw that movie, my friend Danny and I hated it so much that like 5 days later, we were at a barbecue together, and a guy we did not know happened to nearby us say that he liked that movie, and we harangued him until he left the party, because we were like, what are you talking about? Which is of course their very 90s personality, which was lauded back then, when you were just like overtly hostile for no reason to every single person. But it was this thing of like, I don't know what you're talking about. But it's like, of course, that's what David Lynch is trying to get you to do. He's like, do you like this or do you absolutely hate it? Okay, here's a little more. Like, I just think that part of it is making people who maybe wouldn't even think to do it suddenly talk about movies, know what they like about movies, like know that their opinion counts about movies. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
R.I.P. to a great one.
Yeah.
It bums me out, not as a huge movie person, but just like having a weirdo in the world is like really comforting, you know, like
Totally.
Paul Rubens kind of a thing where it's like, it's comforting to know there are people out there doing whatever the fuck they want to do.
Yeah.
Well, I think David Lynch is special as an artist outside of like the movies he made, because his whole thing was like, you do not need to suffer to make great art. That was like his big message. And I think that a lot of people feel like when you make art or any sort of like project, you're like, you need to die for this. You need to starve yourself, you know? And I feel like David Lynch was very much like, no, you need to be like, it's better to be a happy person making art. And you can still make art about dark things. And God knows he did. But it's like, you still need to like take care of yourself. And I think that's a good message.
Yeah.
Millie, did you say what your movie most recent was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Last night.
Better Man.
So sorry.
How you forget the monkey?
I got so excited about Truly Madly Deeply because that's like, it's literally like I made that movie. Nobody knows that movie ever. And like, I'm always telling people, you got to watch it. But
I was shocked. I looked on Letterboxd and like no one I follow has watched it. And I was surprised because I was like, it's an incredible film.
You, Casey, you have like in the past have done this very similar thing where you have pulled out like this rom-com, this like unknown rom-com, and have become like its number one fan. I think that's lovely about you.
Wow.
it's nice.
I'm like, oh, this like fucking weird rom-com that no one's seen in like 30 years. Casey, 5 stars on Letterboxd. Now, and nobody else I know has seen it, and then I'm compelled to go watch it. So
I'm a lover. I'm a feeler.
Yeah.
And I love
Sensitive.
digging up these rom-coms no one's watching.
I love it.
Casey, are you so excited to finally get some fucking attention in this podcasting world since you kind of
no longer a producer?
Yeah, you've been behind the scenes and now
Oh my God, finally. Yes, I get to emerge from behind
it's a sweet spot.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled. I mean, it was such an honor that Millie, you know, reached her hand down into the gutter and pulled me out of it and
You're like Pennywise down there.
Yeah, like Pennywise, yeah.
How did you guys like come to that idea that you like this is a movie podcast? Like, what was the thinking behind all of that?
Well,
I mean,
I know Millie. I know. Well, like I saw what you did was ending, and Millie wanted to do another show, and I was kind of like, well, I was like, please let me produce it, and so that was sort of the impetus. Just you know, Millie making a new movie show.
Yeah, we joked about this. We joke about this in the pilot episode, actually. I don't know if I should say it, but that I was like basically like Bradley Cooper in A Star Is Born, and I like found Casey, the Lady Gaga character, like doing a little burlesque in a shitty bar, and I was like, come in my limo, I'm gonna make a star movie. No, I was like, here's the thing about Casey, like I have heard him on other podcasts before, and he's so charismatic, so funny, knows a lot about movies, like has like, you know, when you hear people or you meet people that have like, you know, you have like similar opinions about things, and it's like, yes, they would get me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Very crucial for me. I just have to say, by personality, I need to be understood. That is like my lot in life. And so I was like, oh, here's somebody who I think we align on a lot of similar stuff. And we're not like the types to like the same things. That's what I'm saying, which I love. I love that we don't like the same things necessarily, but our reasons for liking and hating things are the same, if that makes sense.
You respect that the other person's wrong, essentially.
Yeah. Or like the reason why you don't like something is the reason why I wouldn't like something.
Right.
You know, even though those two things are different.
Totally.
I guess. But I would hear him on these other podcasts, and I mean, it was just like, well, I want to do a show with him. Does he want to do a show with me?
Yeah.
It's the eternal question.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so funny, Millie. I feel like you were like, I feel like up until recently, you're like, just checking in, you want to do this show with me, right? And no, I mean, I feel like Millie and I always like, we always connected really well, and I wanted to keep working with her if she wanted to keep making podcasts. So that was sort of the beginning of the show.
We want to get a sense of, through the movie, we're just trying to do the movie thing along with you. We want to get a sense of who you are as people. What do you get when you go to the movie theater? What is your snack combination?
This is a great question. And actually, I feel like a lot of our show is like about the like movie watching ritual too, like what we do when we watch movies. I always get popcorn and I always try to get a cherry Coke.
Ooh.
Those are kind of my go-to. It's hard for me to incorporate candy into it because I need the pop. And then but the candy in the pop is just too much sweetness. So I don't know. That's the popcorn and cherry Coke is my.
That's
go-to.
lovely.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Millie.
Movie theater popcorn always gives me a stomachache, but I don't care.
Yeah.
It's like the problem. I was just like, I don't care if I'm on the toilet for like 3 days after this. I have to go. I have to eat it. Like, I don't know what it is. And then I'm with you, Casey. Like what I was always for a very long time, the peanut M&Ms on top of the popcorn.
Yes, 100%.
Which I used to call like trail mix. This is like trail mix. This is healthy, right? But then lately, I've been, because I don't want to get the soda if you're getting candy. So I switch, and now it's either that I get the popcorn and a Coke Icy.
Ooh.
You know? Yeah. Which is the only time I ever drink full flavored Coke. I usually do not drink. I usually do like Diet or Coke Zero.
Yeah. But in an icy, it's the most delicious thing of all time.
I have to. So it's either that, and then I alternate with the peanut M&Ms, but always popcorn.
Can I ask you guys a question? You guys are all movie goers. I don't go to the theater, and I've always wondered this: are you supposed to finish your snacks before the movie starts? That always blew my mind. Where it's like you have to save it, and you're supposed to eat it before, right?
Well, you mean like in the 15 minutes of trailers and stuff?
Yeah, and then everyone stops eating when the movie starts. So I feel self-conscious chewing loudly when the
So you feel self-conscious chewing when the movie has started?
Yeah.
You think you need to scarf the food?
It seems like everyone else finishes their. I don't know if it was like a rule that I just didn't fucking know.
I don't. I've never finished my snacks before.
Okay.
No, I mean, not to say it's not like haven't put a serious dent in, but to me, part of the joy of like a big bucket of popcorn and watching a movie is like the zone out and just insane, just like just shoveling it into your face in the dark. That's the fun of it.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of times I do. I don't know if it's to completion, but I'm like 75% there.
Me too. That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm 75% there. You know, I'm peaking at the right when the movie starts, and then I can pick my spots.
Okay. Okay.
It's not out of respect, though. It's out of just me being gross, and I'm like, I'm starving.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I do a thing where I will, go to that 75% and then save the 25, and then we'll dip in like an hour into the film.
Okay.
So I'll just like pick it back up again.
Like, oh yeah.
It's like I remember I had this, but I'm housing that shit.
Hell yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Honestly, I've like been worried.
Yeah, don't worry about those other people. I have a follow-up to that question, which is, who's the most famous person you've ever seen at the concession stand at the ArcLight here in Los Angeles?
Oh shit.
Oh man,
Danielle and I saw somebody that was on Seinfeld, not as a main character, but some recurring, and now I can't remember who it was. Was it like a Patrick Warburton or something like that?
Yeah.
But
or the guy with the white hair.
Yeah, it was definitely some beloved side character from Seinfeld we saw at the ArcLight.
The ArcLight was a good place to spot celebrities, I feel like.
Yeah.
Or like known people. I don't know why this guy popped into my head, but I was seeing Nope at the ArcLight. I think it was Nope, or it was Us, one of the Jordan Peele movies, and Tom Morello was getting popcorn. Of Rage Against the Machine guitarist.
That's
was
good.
getting
That is a good
popcorn.
one.
I was always so jealous whenever I would hear the stories of Keanu Reeves going to the ArcLight.
Yeah.
And I was like, when does he go? And how come I'm not there?
I saw him at the Beverly Center. You got to go to the mall too. I know.
gosh.
I mean, the only reason I wrote that question in was because I saw Colin Farrell at the ArcLight concession stand. So I reverse engineered that entire thing simply to be able to tell that story again.
Oh my God.
Oh man, we're feral for feral.
Right?
We are. We're a pro feral podcast. We know this.
How could you be anti?
Yeah.
I challenge you, but I swear to God, I felt him coming from like 500 paces. I was just like, what's this? There's electricity in the air down here in the lower concession area. And then I looked over, there he was, glasses, headband, weird workout clothes.
Headband.
He absolutely was like, the aura was like 20 feet in front of him. He knew it. We all knew it. It was amazing.
Gorgeous.
It's like an angel.
Yeah. Movie stars at the movies. Like, what more do you want?
You guys, do you have a favorite movie theater moment now that we're talking about them? Besides finishing all the amazing food.
What radicalized you in the movie theater?
Millie had kind of a crazy one recently. This isn't a good memory, but this is something bad that happened where someone was throwing
a lit firecracker during
Shut up. What happened?
Yes. It was insane.
Did you do it?
No, I wish. No, it was an hour into Furiosa.
Oh shit!
All I know is that it was packed. It was like the Thursday that it came out, so it was like no empty seat. And then all of a sudden, you saw this like fireball sail through the air.
No.
Jesus. Landed in like the first like 5 rows of seats, and then everybody just jumped up.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And the whole theater, it was like we were in this like frozen moment of we were like waiting for an explosion or something. It was like really hard. So everybody was like stood up and like kind of moving towards the emergency exits, but we were kind of like frozen, waiting to see like what would happen with the fire. Like either it was gonna just fizzle out, explode, somebody was gonna like get burned. We were just waiting for something to happen. And then by the time anything was supposed to happen, the fire alarm got pulled and they were like clearing people out, so we had to leave.
You can't do that. That's an 80s trick, not a fucking
in this movie theater, I'm gonna call this movie theater out in Atlanta. Chronically, there's always teenage antics at this place.
Yeah.
This is the problem with the movies, is that it's not just teenagers running scams, but it's like the teenagers run the place.
Yeah.
So they're in cahoots.
Oh.
And so nothing gets done. There's no policy that gets enacted because of this. And so every time something has happened in this movie theater, including the fireworks saga, I have asked one of my friends that has kids, I was like, is it a school holiday? And they were like, yes. And I'm like, So the messaging is that on a school holiday, the kids go to the movie theater and cause trouble.
Man.
So now I stay away.
Yeah. They're that's their way to party.
This is what I think every movie's like. That's why I don't go.
It's always firecrackers and
somebody.
Yeah. Especially that movie is, it's already so tense.
Yeah.
And so much going on.
Yeah. And it was, we got a pass to come back to see the last hour of it. Like an hour into it. It was so annoying. But I don't know, Casey, what about you? Do you have any?
Well, I mean, I kind of talked about this on one of our episodes, where I had to like yell at those old people because they were in my seat. Should I tell that story? I've had a lot of issues with people sitting in my seat when it's a reserved seat. I don't know how you both feel about the reserved seats in the movie theaters, but I like it. I like having a reserved seat for myself. And my wife and I were in the theater. It was like a sold-out theater. We were seeing The Big Short, and we got there right when the movie started. This is at the ArcLight, and I go to like the guy working, and I'm like, "Where are our seats? I can't even see. It's so dark." And he's like, "They're up there, but I can see that there's a guy sitting in your seat, so you're gonna have to ask him to move." And I'm like, "Oh god."
Jesus.
So it was this elderly couple, and imagine there are 4 seats, and they own 2 of them. But they're sitting in the middle, and we own 2 of them. But they're sitting in the middle 2.
Fuck.
Yeah.
No,
so they have
you can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm angry right now.
They have to scoot over 1, to make room for us.
Yeah.
And so I go up, and I'm like, "Hi, sir, you are in my seat." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, and the movie has started, and I was like, "You're in my seat." I paid for these seats. And his wife is like, what's going on?
Oh, God.
Oh, my God. I was like, please. And the movie has started. And I'm like, please move over one seat. And then the people behind them are like, why are these people standing in the middle of the movie? And I was like, this is my ticket. Move over one. And finally they did get the message and move over one. But that was a pretty harrowing experience.
Then you have to sit next to them the whole fucking time.
And then I have to sit next to them.
Hold on a second, though. Just to devil's advocate.
Okay.
Why were you so late?
That's what my mom said to me, too. She was like, well, it's your fault. You were late to the movie.
Have some respect.
I mean, that's true. I can't deny I was wrong for being late to the movie.
The last time we went to the movies, it was a very similar situation, except for I was the late one. And the movie theater, it was in my hometown. It was so dark inside the movie theater that I couldn't find the rows like the letter row walking up, and no idea what the number of seat. So my cousin is up there somewhere, and I walk halfway down, and it's pitch black. Like I can't see anything. And it's one of those ones where, the newfangled movie theater seats where it's like a lazy boy recliner.
Yes.
So I'm walking really slow because I don't want to slam my shins into a recliner thing. And I just am like guessing as to where my seat would be or where my cousin is. And so I'm bending over and trying to look into people's faces.
Oh my God.
Get like halfway down, walking really slow. And I just go like, Anna. And then this girl just goes, no.
Oh, no.
And then I keep going. And then I just end up very slowly running into the wall because it was one of those small theaters that doesn't have stairs on either side. It was just like I just got to the end by touching my nose to a carpeted wall.
That hurts me.
It was so embarrassing.
That is just so scary, though. It can be so dark in there, and there's like, there's like dozens of people sitting quietly and you're like trying to navigate them. I mean, it's like a horror movie.
And they can see you fine because their eyes are adjusted.
Yes, and it was the beginning of A Complete Unknown where
it's so dark.
It's so dark and they're in a hospital while someone is dying of a degenerative disease.
And you're like, Anne?
So when I hit the wall, my cousin Sophie is the one that's there and she goes, did you just run into the wall? And I'm like, thanks for your help. And she goes, I couldn't see you. I didn't know it was you until you started laughing.
That's so funny you said that because I saw that movie in the theater too. And the opening, the first like 5 minutes of A Complete Unknown is so dark that I thought I was about to go to the projection booth and be like, could you I don't know if the the movie is playing right or whatever. And because there were people just like you who were like fumbling, stumbling. Because it was I was like, why is this movie so dark? I don't understand where we're at.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Wild. All right. Should we let you guys host a little bit? What, you guys host like it's your podcast.
Yeah, you go.
Yeah, we have a few questions here lined up. Millie, what should we start with here?
Oh gosh, I don't know. This is when we were talking about, kind of what we're going to do for this podcast, like how we're going to set it up and what are these like questions that we want to ask our guests, right? And one of the things that came to mind, I mean, again, like this podcast that we're doing is also about like movie culture. So, we're talking about not just like movie theater going, but like video stores and, just stuff that if you're into movies or there's like these little rituals, these little, little things that we do. And one of the questions that we like to ask is, imagine that you're in a video store. And so if you're, going through the video store, what's like the first VHS or DVD cover that comes to mind when you enter into it?
Do you have yours?
I do.
It's not going to be the same for sure.
It'd be amazing if it was.
Say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Twins.
A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, A Fish Called Wanda.
I can see both of those perfectly in my head.
Oh my God, so much.
Absolutely.
Why is that? Twins. For some reason, that's the one with Schwarzenegger and
Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
It has a visual.
Now, what's your relationship with that movie, Georgia? Do you have a relationship?
Yes, I was the right age, and I had every other weekend at my dad's house, my single dad, and so we would have to rent a VCR from the video store when we're going to do that, and so we just fucking love that movie and watch the shit out of it. I'm sure it's so inappropriate for children now. You know those?
Yeah.
And Karen, what about A Fish Called Wanda? Do you have any relationship with that movie?
Well, the first thing I saw was Kevin Kline with his like balancing on something, which actually could be from a different movie. Like I feel like he had that run of movies from like 84 to 95 where it was like that it would be Kevin Kline on the spine of a VHS tape, like balancing on a chair or like having a mustache.
Both these movies are posing for the cover.
Yeah.
Like they're not like take a clip from the movie. They're like the cast.
Yes.
Posing. I totally see it.
The visual part. But I think the Kevin Kline, anything he was doing, I wanted to be there for it. And my family would be too. Like A Fish Called Wanda made my parents laugh so hard. It was one of those kinds of that and The Four Seasons, like where you're like, what's going on that they like this so much? So then it made me pay more attention to like the actual comedy because I was interested in like what was everyone doing that was eliciting that response.
Yeah.
They weren't, because they were not easy laughers and they were like crying laughing. So I think it was that piece of it where it's like kind of what our family liked a little bit.
Oh, wow,
it is funny because I feel like you mentioned that they like these are both like posing for the poster, and I feel like that's such a lost art. Everything's photoshopped now, or it's like a still taken from the movie or something. But
very
like
poorly too. These like these weird like it looks like a Hallmark movie poster, but it's like a big budget movie.
Yeah,
I don't know if they just can't be these stars don't want to get back together for a fun little shoot or something.
Right.
But
get in front of that white psych and pose.
That's right.
Let's go.
Sell this thing.
Go.
Well, very good. That's I love that. Millie, you know what? I don't feel like you have answered that question. What's like the VHS cover that comes to your mind?
Well, I was such a video store loser as a kid. I mean, I was there constantly, and it was just like, well, first of all, my parents never let us go to the movie theater. They were too cheap to let us go to first run movies. So we were at the video store constantly. And all of my good memories from video stores come from the horror movie section. It's just what clicked in my brain. And so I think for me, the first one that comes to mind is the cover for a movie called Happy Birthday to Me. And it's basically a shish kebab skewer going through the guy's mouth into the back of his head.
Happy birthday to me.
I have never even heard of this movie.
Yeah.
What?
It's a classic.
Really? You know it?
Oh yeah. It was in the the solid horror section, which I wouldn't necessarily be that interested in, but you would kind of love I was thinking that would always be next to like Christine, and then like something else. So you'd be like, oh, I would watch a Stephen King. Oh my God, Happy Birthday to Me, or like the one where She Will Have Her Revenge. There was some really dark late 70s horror that would get mixed in there. So then it would just be like, well, we can't rent that, but what is it? Like, what's happening over there? There
was another one that is in that era, I think, or around that era. The movie was, I think the movie is called Phenomena by Dario Argento, the Italian horror director, but it was called Creepers. And it was basically the cover was like an illustration of Jennifer Connelly, the actress Jennifer Connelly, with half of her face being ripped off by like insects.
There's a lot of bugs in Phenomena, or aka creepers.
Oh yeah.
And this is just on a shelf at my height, which at the time I was probably like 3 feet tall or something. I mean, I was like, and I'm going, this is like totally ruining my life. Like all of these little boxes. They were so evocative, so freaky, and it just, those are the things that I kind of gravitated towards.
Yeah,
definitely.
And you were in there like staring at these boxes, like it was quiet like the library.
Yeah.
And you were desperate to pick something that would actually entertain you, because that was like your one chance where it's like, go find something. And then it was like, what will I pick that will actually make me happy?
And your sibling can't. So you guys have to agree on it.
Yeah.
That's the worst part.
Yes.
I love talking about VHS covers in the video store because I just think it's like it's like when you sort of start movies become evocative to you at a very young age, where you're like, what is that? I need to know what that is. And I think that's
my sister and I snuck into the X-rated. We pushed the curtain aside and ran into the X-rated video store section when no one was looking.
How was it?
I was so overwhelmed. I'm like, you have to look at one and you have to pay attention. You have to like focus on it or you're not going to see anything, because I was so overwhelmed.
That's really good. That's like a mature thought process going into this.
It's like circle. And it was like, just look at something. And so I looked at it and it was just like it was called Naked with Shoes On. And it blew my mind.
Interesting.
She had like like LA Gear tennis shoes and like scrunched socks and was like clearly naked everywhere else, naked with shoes on. I was like, oh my God, that's a thing. Like I didn't realize adults were like into it naked with shoes on.
Yeah.
That is such a weird concept now that I think about it, because like my local video store had that section as well, curtained off. So you're predictably like in the family video store with like other people in your community. So you're seeing like neighbors.
You're seeing your pastor, you're seeing your accountant.
Right. So it's like, then all of a sudden it's like your friend's dad like disappears behind the curtain. And I'm like, that would never, like, that is such a weird concept. I don't know if that would happen these days. Like nobody wants to be in the X-rated video section while people are running twins, right? It's like a different vibe.
It's like pervs go in the back.
Yeah.
They don't want that for themselves.
But they all had that though.
They did.
It was like that. It was always like beaded curtain, kind of like, here's the sexy area.
Did you ever rent anything when you got older?
In the beaded sexy area? No. Oh my God.
Yeah, me neither.
I just watched The Cook, The Thief, His Wife, and Her Lover a bunch of times.
That's a great art house movie.
I don't know though.
It's very sexy and dirty, and there's a lot of like pate on naked bodies.
Yes, I think Helen Mirren is like covered in rotting meat. Completely nude at some point. In
sexy.
That film.
Yes.
Yeah.
But does she have shoes on?
Wow.
The idea that they just named it What the Thing is the funniest.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah. And I tried to look it up and I can't find it. Like it might not exist in real life. It might just exist in my mind. I want to ask one last question. Do you guys have a dream guest? And David Lynch, R.I.P. That would have been amazing. But do either of you have a dream guest?
I mean, Keanu Reeves. I say that every film podcast that we do. I always say Keanu Reeves.
Could happen.
Love for that to happen.
He loves movies.
Yeah, turns out.
Always has.
I feel like one that I thought I was like, if we had Martin Scorsese on our podcast, I mean, he's like such a movie lover. That's why I feel like he would fit in well with our show. But so he would be a dream guest.
Let's put those out into the universe.
That's right.
Listen, I'll appeal to him as a fellow Italian American, and I will start talking about, cannolis and other Italian things, and hopefully he'll come.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary, Forced, with my dad about the automat in New York City that he was in, and talked very passionately about the automat and what the automat was like. It was hilarious.
Yeah. No, he would be awesome.
Let's do it.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll get on that here at Exactly Right.
We're going to do everything we can. All right. You guys is there anything else you want to talk about?
You don't have to.
Think so.
No, we just really are so thankful for you both, for respecting the vision and helping us get it going, and we're just so happy to be back doing film podcasts with Exactly Right. I mean, I had such a great experience the first time, and like when we were talking about ending, I saw what you did. I was like, no, I want to stay. Don't pull me out of my dream. So I was, like really, really excited that we kind of kept it in the fam, with Casey. And I don't know. I'm just really, really excited about what we can do. And we hope that everybody enjoys it. And
I mean, it was an easy hell yes when we heard the pitch. It was just like, fucking absolutely. Yeah. I can't wait to see what you guys do. And
it's great.
It's exciting.
It's great. I will definitely miss I Saw What You Did, because as a film historian, you just really, and a great writer, Millie, you just would kind of present the movies that you and Danielle would talk through, and it would be like Danielle would just be kind of the person who's like, oh, I just saw this for the first time, and then you would present the kind of the other side of like, well, here are all the things I know about this. And it's so deeply interesting to me because you are so good at that and you have been doing it for so long. But listening to the two of you guys talk, and it's much more kind of like up-to-date conversational recommendations, what's going on. It's day and date. It's almost like it's like your movie newsletter as opposed to your movie thesis, which both so valid and both so good. You guys as a combination, I'll miss Danielle, of course, so much, but you guys as a combination is just like so charming and easy to listen to as a podcast. So great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you.
One thing I want to pitch is, or a plug, I should say, is the Softies, the band The Softies. They do the theme song to our show, and they're one of my favorite bands, and we're an inspiration to kind of the vibe of the podcast. So it was like such a thrill to have them do the theme song. So if I'm plugging anything, they have a new album, The Bed I Made. You can listen to that.
I love it. I love them. That's exciting.
Yeah, it's the perfect, their theme song is so perfect and lovely.
I know. It's so cute.
All right.
Thanks, you guys. We really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
You guys, congratulations. We love your show. We can't wait for everyone else to hear it.
It is so great. And so Dear Movies, I Love You premieres on January 28th, and new episodes will come out every Tuesday.
And don't forget to rate, review, follow, subscribe, love, dedicate your life to that podcast. Also, stay sexy.
And don't get murdered. Bye.
Goodbye.